Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Disappear from the crowd, move in silence, and shock them with your results. That's not just a quote, it's a quiet war cry, a philosophy. And if that stirred something in you, you might not be like the others. But before you assume anything, ask yourself this: what if the very habits that make you different are the same ones that make you dangerous? Here's a fact that'll mess with your head. Less than 1% of men operate outside the traditional alpha-beta hierarchy. That means 99% are either barking orders or begging for validation. But that last 1%, they don't bark. They don't beg. They vanish, observe, build, and then appear when it's already too late for everyone else to catch up. That rare breed is called the Sigma male. But let's be brutally honest. Most of the people calling themselves Sigma online, they couldn't even spell it under pressure. This isn't about sunglasses and solitude. It's about raw internal operating systems that run counter to everything society expects, and often everything women are used to. So today, we're not talking cliches. No lone wolf garbage, no edgy aesthetics. We're going deep into the 20 brutally rare, disturbingly accurate habits that truly separate Sigmas from the noise. If you see yourself in even one of these, you're not normal, you're not alpha, you're outside the grid. Let's begin, but don't say I didn't warn you, because once you recognize these signs, you'll never look at yourself or the world the same way again. Number 1. You rarely ask for advice, because you already asked yourself 100 brutal questions. You don't ask for advice, not because you're arrogant, but because by the time most people are even reacting to a problem, you've already interrogated it in your mind like it's on trial for murder. You've broken it apart, stripped it of emotion, challenged every possible outcome, and questioned your own motives 100 times over. You don't just want answers, you want truth, and most people don't go that deep. People love offering advice, usually without understanding the full picture. They'll tell you what they would do based on their fears, limits, or comfort zones. But you've already dug beneath the surface. You've already sat alone in the silence, wrestling with the hard questions nobody wants to ask themselves, like, what if I'm the problem? Or, what belief am I protecting by not acting? You don't flinch from these. You invite them in, and that's rare. Most people look for reassurance. You look for clarity. When others want comfort, you want confrontation with yourself. It's not that you think others are stupid. It's that you've learned most people live on autopilot. They react emotionally, they project, they deflect, you dissect. You've built a habit of running brutal self-diagnostics before opening your mouth. You've learned that by the time you're vulnerable enough to ask for advice, the damage is often already done. Or worse, your mind is looking for a way out, not a way through. So you don't outsource your decision-making. You internalize it, audit it, question it, until it either stands tall or crumbles. This makes people uncomfortable. They think you're distant, stubborn, hard to reach. But the truth is, you're just not addicted to input. You value original thinking more than borrowed answers. And when you do ask for someone's opinion, it's not because you need direction. It's because you've already mapped the route, and you're checking for blind spots. This habit doesn't make you loud, flashy, or relatable. It makes you sharp, focused, quietly lethal. Because while others are still collecting opinions, you're already moving, with clarity they can't even see coming. Number 2. You don't chase women, but you're not passive either. You don't chase women, not because you can't, but because you're too focused to care about the game most guys obsess over. You're not wired to throw energy into something that feels like a performance. You're not scrolling endlessly, DMing random girls, or bending your personality just to get attention. That's not your style. You move with purpose, and anything that distracts from that, even if it looks good, doesn't make the cut. You've learned that chasing someone usually means you've already given up your frame. It means you're putting someone on a pedestal before they've earned it. And that's just not how you operate. You're not playing by rules designed to keep you emotionally invested in proving your worth. You don't feel the need to impress. You simply are who you are. No show, no dance, just presence. But here's the part most people don't get. You're not passive either. You're not one of those wait for the universe to send me someone types. When you want a woman, you don't hesitate. You're direct, clear, and calm. You don't chase, you move toward. And if the energy isn't matched, you don't get bitter, you just leave. No drama, no complaints, just distance. What's crazy is this actually makes you more attractive, not less, because you're not predictable. You're not easy to read. You're not out here begging for validation or drowning in thirst traps. You're focused on building something real in your life, and that quiet focus speaks louder than words. It makes people curious. It makes women wonder why you're not doing what every other guy is doing. And that mystery, that restraint, that's power most men never tap into. You're not avoiding love. You're just unwilling to dilute your energy chasing someone who doesn't feel aligned. You don't need constant attention to feel like a man. You know who you are when no one's watching. And that kind of grounded presence naturally pulls the right kind of energy toward you. It's not a strategy, it's just your nature. You're not chasing anyone, because your path is already moving forward, and anyone who wants to join better, be able to keep up. Number 3, you vanish deliberately, not to escape, but to evolve. You don't disappear because you're overwhelmed. You disappear because you're refining. When life gets noisy, when distractions pile up, and when everyone's scrambling to be seen, that's exactly when you go ghost. Not out of fear, not out of weakness, but because evolution requires privacy. Growth for you is a surgical process. You don't evolve under a spotlight. You do it in silence, away from noise, where your thoughts can sharpen and your identity can stretch without being interrupted. Most people are addicted to visibility. They feel like they don't exist unless someone is watching. You're the opposite. You don't crave attention, you crave alignment. And when your world starts to feel out of sync, when the energy feels off, when the wrong people are too close, or when you feel yourself plateauing, you vanish, not to run, to recalibrate, to destroy the version of you that's no longer relevant and rebuild one that's ready for the next level. People notice. They ask, "Where have you been?" The truth is, you've been in places they'll never go. In your mind, in your solitude, in your grind. You weren't gone. You were upgrading, cutting dead weight, rewiring mindsets, breaking patterns. And while they were busy posting about every step of their day, you were building a life that would leave them speechless. This disappearing act isn't about drama. There's no announcement, no vague posts, no taking a break from social media speeches. You just go, quietly, decisively. And when you return, you don't explain. You show. You come back sharper, colder, more focused. And suddenly people treat you differently, even if they don't know why. This is a habit that scares people, because most don't understand solitude unless it's forced on them. But for you, it's fuel. It's where the weak parts of your identity get burned off, and only the real remains. You don't retreat into the shadows because you're hiding. You go there because that's where your next version is being built, in silence, under pressure, and far away from anyone who might dilute the process. Number 4, you're impossible to categorize, and it pisses people off. You don't fit into any category, and that unsettles people more than you think. In a world obsessed with labels, definitions, and roles, you show up and throw the whole system off balance. You're not the loudest in the room, but you're definitely the one they notice. You don't demand attention, yet you have presence. You're not submissive, but you're not playing alpha either. You operate on your own frequency, and that breaks people's brains. Even self-proclaimed alphas, the loud, chest-thumping types who need validation like oxygen, don't know what to do with you. They feel your presence, but can't size you up. You don't challenge them directly, but you don't submit to their dominance either. You just exist, unbothered, unaffected, and completely outside their framework, and that makes you unpredictable. A wild card. A threat they can't confront because you're not playing the same game they are. People try to box you in. They want to know, are you a leader or a loner? Are you confident or just quiet? Are you antisocial or just selective? And the answer is always the same. You're none of the above. You bend definitions and you do it effortlessly. It's not even rebellion, it's just your nature. You live by your own code, and the fact that it doesn't need to be validated by a group drives control freaks insane. They want to read you, predict you, categorize you. But you leave no trail. One moment you're deeply introspective, and the next you're making moves that nobody saw coming. One moment you're invisible, the next you're unavoidable. That duality, the ability to be both still and dangerous, both calm and capable, makes people uncomfortable because they can't prepare for you. People get frustrated when they can't put you in a box. It messes with their sense of control. They can't label you, so they can't dismiss you, and that's what makes you powerful. You're not here to play a role, you're here to disrupt them without even trying. Number 5. You play dumb as a strategy. You know more than you let on. And that's exactly the point. You've realized that in certain situations, showing your full intelligence or awareness only triggers egos, resistance, or competition. So instead, you stay quiet. You underplay. You let people think you're not paying attention, that you're not a threat, that you're just floating through the moment. And while they drop their guard, expose their intentions, or start flexing for status, you're collecting data. This isn't manipulation, it's precision. You've learned that being underestimated is a weapon, one most people are too proud to use. They want to be seen as the smartest in the room. You're smarter than that. You'd rather watch the smartest in the room reveal their blind spots trying to prove themselves to you. It's a long game, and you're patient enough to play it. People assume silence equals ignorance. They think lack of reaction means lack of understanding. That's their first mistake. You don't need to correct them. You let them talk. You let them assume. Because the more they believe you don't see what's happening, the more they expose. And when it's time to act, when decisions are being made, power is shifting, or everything's falling apart, that's when you show your hand. And by then, it's too late for them to recover. Strategic invisibility is a dying art. Most people are too obsessed with being seen, being praised, being recognized. You've realized there's more power in the shadows. You can hear more, move more, and strike cleaner when nobody is looking for you. That ability to play dumb, to hide your edge, makes you lethal, not loud. You're not concerned with being impressive on the surface. You're busy reading the room, tracking patterns, watching for openings. And the best part? When the time comes and you finally make your move, people don't even understand how you pulled it off. They didn't see it coming, because they never saw you. They thought you were passive, they thought you were average, but the whole time you were just playing a role, one step ahead, hidden in plain sight. Number 6. You read people's motives like second language. You don't need people to explain themselves. Their energy does it for them. While others are still reacting to words, you're already locked in on why those words were said in the first place. You notice the subtle pause before someone answers a question, the flicker in their eyes when they mention a name, the forced laugh that doesn't match their body language. You read all of it like subtitles on a screen, and most of the time you do it automatically. It's not some superpower. It's a survival instinct that turned into a skill. You've been around enough masks to know what real looks like and what doesn't. So when someone's being fake, needy, manipulative, or secretly insecure, you don't need to argue with them or expose them. You just clock it. Quietly. You file it away. You keep the conversation going like normal, but mentally you've already adjusted. You've already decided how much access they'll get, how far you'll trust them, and whether or not they'll play a role in your life going forward. And the reason you don't call it out? Because you don't need the drama. Calling people out is for those who need to prove something. You don't. You're not trying to win social games. You're trying to maintain clarity. And that clarity comes from observation, not confrontation. This habit makes people think you're just quiet or laid back, when really you're 5 steps ahead. You already know who's pretending, who's power-hungry, who's broken but hiding it behind status or charm. You've seen it all. You've felt it all. And you've learned that exposing people rarely changes anything. It just creates noise. So instead, you move differently. You adjust your tone. You limit your openness. You test loyalty in silence. And that's what makes you dangerous. While others are still getting caught up in the surface-level performance, you're already dealing with the truth, the real motives underneath the masks. And the person who sees through people without needing to say a word, that's the one who always ends up in control. Number 7. You feel disgusted by performative masculinity. You've never been impressed by loudness, The yelling, the posturing, the need to dominate every room, none of it moves you. In fact, it turns you off. It's obvious, forced, and painfully transparent. Performative masculinity doesn't signal strength to you. It signals insecurity dressed up in a costume. When someone needs to constantly remind the world how alpha they are, you already know they're compensating for something internal they haven't faced yet. You've seen it too many times. The guy who talks over everyone to prove he's in charge. The one who tries to intimidate others just to feel powerful. The constant flexing, the fake confidence, the hunger for validation from other men. It's all theater. And you don't watch plays. You study the actors. Real strength, to you, doesn't need a stage. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't walk into a room with noise. It enters quietly and owns space through energy, not volume. You've realized the most dangerous people rarely advertise it. They're the calmest, most measured, most observant ones in the room. Because when you are power, you don't need to perform it. You see right through the games. The alpha peacocking, the fake bravado, the social media posturing. It reeks of desperation. And it honestly makes you uncomfortable. Not because you're intimidated, but because you understand it. You've been in dark enough places to know what it looks like when someone's afraid to sit with their real self. So instead of facing their demons, they dress them up in hypermasculine armor and parade them around like trophies. You've got nothing to prove. You're not in a competition with other men. You don't need to dominate to feel like a man. Your masculinity is rooted in control, clarity, and self-respect, not attention. That's why you don't yell. You don't chase, you don't posture, you just move differently. And when you do speak, people listen. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence earned it. Let the others beat their chests. You're too busy building a life that speaks louder than any flex ever could. Number 8. You fear mediocrity more than death. Comfort doesn't tempt you, it suffocates you. The idea of waking up every day living a life that feels average, predictable, and safe, that's not peace to you. That's prison. You'd rather risk everything, time, money, reputation, chasing something real, something sharp, something that demands your evolution, than settle into a routine that slowly robs your soul. You don't fear losing. You've lost before. You've been broke, broken, betrayed. But none of that compares to the slow, silent death of becoming just another guy, the one who trades fire for familiarity, the one who once had potential, but got comfortable instead. You'd rather fail chasing something massive than succeed at something meaningless. This is what people don't get about you. They think you're restless, too intense, too hard on yourself. What they don't see is the war going on inside you, the daily fight between who you are and who you refuse to become. Mediocrity isn't just a lifestyle you reject. It's a virus you constantly protect yourself from. You can feel it creeping in the moment you stop pushing, stop learning, stop questioning. That's why you never sit still for too long. That's why you never fully arrive. The Sigma doesn't chase success just to be rich or praised. He chases mastery, of craft, of mind, of life. You want to know what you're capable of, not what's comfortable. You measure yourself against your own potential, not someone else's metrics, and that's why you live in a constant state of evolution. You reinvent, you tear down and rebuild. You outgrow environments and relationships without apology. Because anything that doesn't grow you drains you. Failure? That's just feedback. You've learned more from your losses than most people do from their wins, but stagnation? That's the real killer. That's the silent weight that creeps in when you play small, live safe, and stop asking hard questions. That's what haunts you. So no, you're not afraid to fall. You're afraid to stand still. Because deep down you know the only thing worse than dying is dying while still alive. Number 9. You're loyal, but not emotionally available. Your loyalty runs deep, but it's not something people can easily claim. You're there for the people who matter when it counts. You've got their back when things get tough and they know it. You show up, you support, you protect, but here's the thing. They'll never fully own you. Your core remains untouchable no matter how close the relationship is. You know that being emotionally available is often equated with giving up your power. The moment you let someone else's emotional needs dictate your decisions, you've lost control. You don't let your boundaries blur, even with those you love the most. You care deeply, but you refuse to make yourself vulnerable to the point where someone else can emotionally drain you or manipulate you. Your love is a gift, but it's not a surrender. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about protection. Protection of your own energy, your own mental space, and your own vision. You understand that being emotionally available can sometimes mean becoming dependent on others' validation, or worse, putting yourself second for their comfort. That's something you'll never allow. You give love on your terms, not theirs. You'll walk through fire for the people who matter, but you won't let them set your emotional landscape on fire just because it's convenient for them. It frustrates people. They can't quite figure you out. They'll experience your loyalty, your respect, and your care, but they'll also feel your emotional distance. It's unsettling for those who are used to having full access to others. They want to pull you closer, get more of your time, more of your mind. But they can't. Not fully. And that leaves them in a constant state of curiosity, and often frustration. You don't do this to be cruel. You do it because you know your worth, and you know what happens when you give too much of yourself away. You've seen how people get tangled in their emotions, how they let others pull them in, only to find themselves lost in someone else's drama. You refuse to go there. Your loyalty is rare, valuable, and unwavering. But your emotional self? That stays guarded because you know its power, and you're not giving it up easily. Number 10. You observe people like puzzles, not companions. You don't interact with people the way most do. You don't just see a face and think friend or ally. Instead, you see a puzzle, a series of interconnected pieces, behaviors, mannerisms, words, gestures, all meant to hide or reveal something deeper. The way they speak, the things they avoid talking about, the way they react when they feel threatened or praised, all of it becomes a clue to the pattern they're subconsciously following. To you, the idea of simply getting along with someone feels like skimming the surface. You want to know what's underneath. Every conversation, every moment of interaction is an opportunity to understand them, to figure out what they're really about, what they're really afraid of, and why they present the version of themselves they do. You watch them carefully, like a detective who's piecing together a case. You don't rush to judge. You don't jump to conclusions. Instead, you let them unfold. You allow them to reveal themselves bit by bit, often without realizing it. When people talk about their lives, their successes, their failures, you don't just listen to the surface level. You listen for what's missing, the gaps between their words, the places they're uncomfortable, the things they gloss over, the moments they fidget or avoid eye contact. You've trained yourself to see those tiny gaps as the key to cracking the code. It's not that you're emotionally detached. It's that you know people's true selves often don't show up in the easy answers. Most people only let others in when they feel they've been figured out. But you don't operate like that. You see beyond their masks. You don't need the fake smiles or small talk. What interests you is their hidden insecurities, the fears they've never said aloud, the desires they don't even recognize in themselves. And it's this quiet observation that allows you to decide when, or if, a real connection will happen. You're not quick to bond, because you know how fragile most connections are. You wait for the moment when the puzzle finally makes sense, when you see how their pieces align. And when that connection happens, it's solid, unshakable, because it's built on real understanding, not assumptions. So while others rush to form bonds, you take your time. You're not here to just know people. You're here to understand them. Only then, when you've decoded the pieces, do you decide if they're worth being let into your world. And that makes your connections rare, and your trust even rarer. Number 11. You don't trust easily, including your own mind. You don't trust easily, and that includes your own thoughts. In a world where most people blindly follow their instincts or beliefs, you're constantly pulling yourself back and asking, is this the truth, or just what I want to believe? Every assumption, every gut feeling, is put under a microscope. You know that even the most well-intentioned thoughts can be clouded by ego, by biases, by the stories you tell yourself. And you're not the kind to let yourself fall victim to that. You've realized that the hardest battle isn't with the world outside, it's with the world inside. The ego, that silent voice that whispers, "This is how things should be. This is the right way," or "This is who you are." That's the real adversary. It's sneaky, persistent, and often convincing. And you know that if you don't constantly challenge your own thoughts, you'll fall into traps that everyone else is too afraid to question. Where others might follow their instincts blindly, you take a moment to pause, to analyze, to dissect. You question your motivations, your emotions, even your reactions to situations. Why did I feel anger in that moment? Is this fear real, or is it an old wound talking? You dig deeper into your own psyche, always searching for the layers beneath the surface. Because you know if you're not aware of the forces driving you, you can easily become a puppet of your own mind. This self-awareness isn't about doubting yourself. It's about protecting yourself from the traps of arrogance and pride. You know that confidence built on shaky foundations isn't true strength. It's just a facade. So you peel back the layers, confront the parts of yourself that others shy away from, and keep your ego in check. It's exhausting work, but necessary work. Because you know that to truly grow, to move to the next level, you must conquer that inner voice that wants to keep you comfortable, complacent, and afraid of change. By constantly questioning your own assumptions, you don't just avoid making mistakes. You ensure that you're always learning, always evolving, always becoming. And in doing so, you achieve a level of clarity and self-mastery that most people never come close to. The ego doesn't control you. You control it. And that's what makes you untouchable. At the end of the day, the Sigma male is not defined by the noise of the world, but by his own quiet, relentless pursuit of mastery, of himself, of his craft, and of life. He doesn't follow trends or seek approval. He walks a path that's uniquely his, one built on introspection, understanding, and unwavering principles. He is a puzzle, constantly shifting and evolving, yet never truly explainable by the rules the world imposes on others. To truly understand him is to understand that he doesn't exist to fit in. He exists to stand apart. There's an undeniable power in that stillness, in that solitude, and in the refusal to be bound by expectations. It's not arrogance, but a quiet confidence that rises from within. A confidence forged not by the approval of others, but by the deep knowing that he is enough. To be a Sigma is to embrace discomfort, to reject mediocrity, and to forever pursue self-actualization with a fierce determination that others can't quite comprehend. The Sigma male isn't a myth or a label. He's a force of nature. His loyalty is silent but unshakable. His intelligence is sharp, his vision clear, and his ability to navigate life, relationships, and challenges with an almost eerie precision is what sets him apart. He doesn't need validation from the outside world because his worth is already firmly rooted within. And while others may strive for popularity, for status, for the spotlight, the Sigma remains an enigma. He is not defined by the world's standards. Instead, he defines his world on his own terms. In a society full of noise and chaos, the Sigma male is the stillness that speaks louder than any echo, and that in itself is his greatest strength. The question isn't whether the world is ready for the Sigma. The real question is whether you are ready to rise to the challenge of becoming one. Because in embracing the path of the Sigma, you don't just become someone who is independent or mysterious, you become someone who is untouchable, not by arrogance but by quiet mastery of self and a life built with purpose, clarity, and unwavering authenticity. If you've resonated with everything we've discussed today, then it's clear you're ready to embrace the mindset of a true Sigma. Don't let this insight just sit in your mind. Let it fuel your own growth and share it with others who need to hear it. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on content that challenges the status quo and pushes you to level up in every area of your life. Hit that like button if you're ready to break free from the noise and start carving your own path. Drop a comment below and let me know what part of the Sigma mindset you resonate with the most. I'd love to hear your thoughts and start a conversation. And don't keep this to yourself. Share this with anyone who needs to hear it. Someone who's ready to stop playing small and start mastering their own life. The more people who rise to their true potential, the better. Together, we're building a community of independent thinkers and doers. So hit that bell notification, stay connected, and keep challenging yourself to be the best version of you. It's time to stop being just another face in the crowd. It's time to become untouchable.